Hey, everybody, welcome back to Author Ecke. Today I have Jack Stewart, who has a very interesting past career, current career, writes books. I'm going to have to apologize. My normal Team Texarkana hat is gone. I lost it in Virginia last weekend, and I don't know where. So I got to apologize for that. I have to get a new one. So, Jack, tell us about yourself. We both live in the Dallas area. We're like, dang, we could have had this in person if I did any kind of coordination,
Yeah.
but that's kind of not my style. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, my schedule is so chaotic these days that, it's hit or miss whether we would have been in the same place at the same time. But yeah, it would have been awesome to do it in person. A little quick background on me. I served 23 years in the Navy flying F-18 Hornets. Last 13 were as an adversary pilot with the River Rattlers in VFA 204. They retired the Hornet right after I retired, and now they're flying the F5 and Tiger 2, and they're called VFC 204, but I refuse to call them that. They're still VFA in my mind. Um, and I'm an airline pilot for my day job, and as a hobby, I started writing books, and now it's quickly becoming another full time career.
Dang. So the F5, that plane's older than the F-18s and everything that you
Yeah,
guys flew.
yeah, I know. They asked me to stick around. Like, hey, do you want to stick around and fly this thing? I was like, man, that thing. I think my dad was 5 when that thing
Yep.
came online. I think I'll skip that. Appreciate it.
Yep. It was the old Tiger Shark, right?
Yeah, the Tiger Shark was I think the F-20, if
Yep.
I remember right. But the F-5 was like the earlier version of it, and it's pretty basic. Although what VFC 204 is flying now, they're going to be upgrading them with all glass avionics displays and advanced IRS and data link and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, it is going to be a pretty good aircraft for adversaries, but not one I wanted to fly.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. So Jack is also a ring knocker, which is commonly
Yeah.
called in the military as a Naval Academy graduate or an Academy graduate.
Yes.
Um, so when did you graduate?
Yeah, I graduated from Annapolis in 1999, and I did 12 years in the active duty before
Mm-hmm.
becoming a reservist. But yeah, I'm very proud of my time at the academy, and I definitely have a different appreciation for it now that I've retired. But I wasn't one of those guys that wore my ring all the time and knocked it on the table to let everyone know. You know, I,
We used to see them in the army. They get together and put them together, and I think they were like the Power Rangers. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're pretty big rings. I mean, like I'm very proud of the school. I love
oh
it,
yeah,
but
of course.
yeah, it's a lot of people were more proud of it than maybe they should have been.
Yeah. So, how did you get into writing? I mean, that's quite the change, right? From
Yeah,
flying, supersonic jets to typing away on a typewriter or like
yeah,
a keyboard.
yeah. I mean, growing up for me, bookstores and libraries, that was my toy store and candy store. I mean, my parents would drop me off at the library, and I'd spend all day there, just get lost in the books. Loved learning about different things, whether
Mm-hmm.
it be undersea exploration, space exploration, um, all different types of fiction. I read a lot of fantasy and science fiction as a kid, horror, and obviously Tom Clancy was probably one of my biggest early influences. And then because of my love for aviation, Dale Brown and Stephen Kuntz were some of the other big ones. But I just always loved reading. And at the academy, I was an English major. Loved writing. I just never really got you know much past like the first or second chapter. I started probably hundreds of books during my career, and then I think like the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of my career, I decided, okay, I've got a book in me, I'm gonna finish it, and so I'd work on it and work on it, but I just didn't know how to structure a story that well. I
Mm-hmm.
was really good as a consumer, as a fan, and kind of knowing what I liked, but I didn't really know how to put that into the craft of writing. And then it was 2020. I decided to take it seriously, and so I picked up a book called "Save the Cat Writes a Novel." And for me, that just clicked. It's something in my brain just clicked and said, "Oh, that's how a story is structured." So all the movies I like to watch, all the books I like to read, I understand why I like them. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started to structure my stories that way, and I just took it seriously. And once I finished that first book, it was off and running. I figured, wow, I can actually do this. The second one was easier. Third one was even easier. Just kind of kept going.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that you hit on a good point. The structure of the story, because I have started many a book. I think this year
yeah,
I'm writing
yeah,
my third
yeah,
now, but I think I started the third one 8 times. Um,
yeah,
but what I found out is that I'll write stuff, and then as I'm carrying on this book, I can use stuff from what I wrote because now I can put it in the structure of the book.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you may have to change it, but I think that's probably what goes first, right? How do you start the book, right? And
Yeah,
how do you end it? What's in between to give it to the highs and the lows and the tempo that you want in the
right,
book is critical.
right. And when I write books, I try to imagine that I'm sitting in a movie theater watching it on the screen, and so I try to include very cinematic scenes, maybe different
Mm-hmm.
points of view, just like you would if you were a director. You'd have a camera, over here, and then you'd switch to a camera over here. So that's how I try to write. And I know that there's pantsers versus plotters, that whole debate, and I'd say I'm somewhere in the middle. I started out strictly pantser, like I just start writing and see what happened, and then I'd realize it was very unsatisfying because I didn't put a lot of forethought into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I try to put a little bit more forethought into it, maybe structure it a little, but it still changes. I mean, the story still flows differently than what I originally intended. So I'm somewhere in between.
Yeah, I started mine. I just started writing about a year and a half ago, and the first book came really easy, flowed real quick. Didn't outline. The second book I didn't outline. The third one I'm outlining a little because I want to
Right.
again the structure of the book. But I just if I write it, I can't read it after I write it. My
Yeah.
handwriting's terrible. So
Uh,
I'm gonna type on the computer. I want to be able to put something in the book itself.
yeah.
But so how many books do you have out right now?
So my first one is going to be released November 21st. That's Unknown Rider, and but I think it was my sixth finished novel,
Mm-hmm.
but it was the first one that my agent thought would be that I should sell and start the series with. The second book is titled Outlaw, and that will come out in February. I think February 20th. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really quick. And then the third one, I don't have a release date for it yet. The third one's called Bogey Spades, and that one will be coming out probably in the summertime, maybe June, July of 2024.
Who's your publisher?
So that's Severn River Publishing. It was actually started by another Naval Academy grad. He was a former helicopter pilot,
Mm-hmm.
self-published, was very very successful USA Today bestseller, and I think he kind of figured out how to help other writers become successful in selling their books, and so figured might as well start a publishing company. And the good news is that he publishes a lot of what I write, military
Mm-hmm.
thrillers, and so he's there's a built-in audience for people that want that kind of book, and unfortunately the publishing world in general today tends to be a little bit more guided by the younger generation that may be a little bit more. I don't want to use the word woke. That term is thrown around way too
Pacifist.
much, but yeah, but maybe not the kind of people that want to read about fighter jets and
Right.
that kind of stuff.
No, I write the same. I I write not necessarily military, but they're all military background or suspense thrillers or espionage or have something to do with the
Yeah,
NRO or the NGA or technology in general. That's kind of my background. Not in the
yeah,
Army. I was a scout in the Army, which there is, at that time when I got out, I remember my first GPS was called the plug.
yeah,
And there's no visual. There's numbers you type in. That GPS
yeah,
will tell you
yeah,
where you're at. You looked on the grid, you looked on a map. Oh, that's my grid coordinates.
yep, yep,
No, that was about
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Things have changed a lot.
Yeah. So what was most the the most fun jet to fly, or airplane in general?
Well, so in the Navy, I flew the T-34, which was a single engine turboprop.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first trainer that we fly in primary. And then I flew the T-45 as a student. I also flew it as an instructor, and that was the single engine jet, the Goshawk. That was the jet that you started bombing with. You learn how to dogfight. You go to the
Mm-hmm.
aircraft carrier and land for the first time. Um, and then the F-18. And that was it. That's all I flew in the Navy. And I mean, obviously I'm a huge Hornet fan. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic jet, um, and I think it's funny because now that I've retired, people ask like, "Do you miss it?" And I was like, I really don't miss it. But if somebody said, "Hey, here's the keys to a Hornet. You want to go take it for a spin?" I would absolutely say yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I tell you what, I used to fly through St. Louis all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and the Admirals Club faced uh, the manufacturer
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
General
Boeing's
Dynamics,
that.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
right across the runway
Yep.
where they made the F-18s.
Yep.
And I remember sometimes they would take them out two at a time, and they would take down the runway. And there's nothing. I've flown a lot. Commercial airlines have nothing on the sound or the power of a military jet.
Yeah.
And
No.
my dad was in the Air Force, so there's a kid, but they would go down the runway. About all he needs is about half of the runway. It's probably a 7,000-8,000 foot runway, and they take off and they just go vertical because they're trying to get out of the commercial, flight patterns.
Yep.
And I was like, so they should just send this recording to everybody that wants to mess with us and say, you don't want this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Military airplanes have a very unique sound, I think, in general. I was just in Long Beach last week, with my civilian job. And,
that's a neat little airport, by the way. That is a very cool airport.
Yeah, it's a very cool airport. And I walked outside, and I had just gotten some breakfast, and I was walking back out to the jet, and I hear just this deep rumble, and and I look, and there's a B-17 taking off. And
oh my goodness,
you can just hear it, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's the sound of freedom, and it's existed for as long as we've had a military flying airplanes.
Yeah, I remember. So I'll sit outside, and every once in a while you hear a CH-47 or not a UE, and then maybe a Apache out around here flying on National Guard or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's a CH-47. That's a military helicopter. My wife is like, come on. How do you know that? I can tell.
Yeah.
I can tell by the sound of the blades and the motor, the engine. I can tell, and it's like C-17 or CH-47 or whatever. She's like, come on, you've been retired for 27 years. Like, it doesn't matter. Some things are like when I go out and shoot. That smell of the round going off is okay. Now I'm back, 18, 19, 17 years old of doing stuff. So I do that. Yeah. So I'm like you. I like to write visually. I like to see it in my mind as I write it because I think that's how I want somebody to read it. So put like detail, the lighting, or shaking his head, or whatever. But I do like that. So do you write? You have to be in a sterile environment, or can you write with noise, white noise, ambient noise, or whatever?
That's a really good question. I typically will listen to instrumental music when I write, and it depends on where I am, right? So a lot of times on an overnight with the airline, I'll go sit down in the hotel bar, and I'll get a beer. Put my headphones on, and I'll play some jazz, or I'll play classical music, just really whatever is in the mood. And I can still kind of hear the activity of the bar around me, but I'm not tuning into conversations, so I still have a little bit of energy from the room, and it keeps me awake and alert and keeps me focused. But the music helps me stay focused on the story. But if I'm at home in my office like I am right now, I probably won't listen to music. It'll probably just be quiet, unless I need to tune out the kids. But fortunately, they're at school right now, so I can.
That's easy
write.
right now.
Yeah, I can write without distraction right now. But yeah, so it depends on where I am.
Right.
I generally can't listen to any music that has lyrics, because if I do, then I'll start singing along, and and I'm not putting the words on the page that I need to.
Then you're looking look at what you just wrote. And you go, I just wrote that song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then they might come after me for copyright. And, it's just a whole.
Oh my, yeah. Well, litigation is the name of the game these days, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
That is for darn sure.
Yeah. What do you do? You listen to music, or?
I do. I do. I like to listen to country and western when I write. And what I really like to do is, it's beautiful weather here in Texas. This summer was a little hot.
Yeah,
but I like to go 4 or 5 mile walk, come back, sit, and before the sun just beats you to death, out,
Yeah.
listen to music, and just hack away.
Yeah.
I do like that in the summertime. I have like a part-time gig where I'm a monitor on a school bus.
Okay.
So I got, mornings, and I got about 5 hours I can play around with where I'll write or do the podcast and
Yeah.
stuff. But I find that, I don't know, either, I don't know, attention shift or ADD or whatever. I have to have some kind of stimulus outside of just writing the book, because it
Yeah.
helps me, I guess, think
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I mean, you
I
can't.
do like
You
that.
need that, right? You
Yeah.
gotta have. You gotta have that.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's from the military, being able to do, multiple things at one time, talk on the radio and, do something or talk to somebody else while you're listening to somebody else. It may have, but to me, that's really good. So I remember, I love airplanes. I mean,
Hmm.
absolutely. My dad was in the Air Force. I remember at a SAC basis, I remember going out and looking at B-52s,
Oh
KC-135s,
yeah.
all these jets, or go to the air shows. I love that. And I was in junior high. I said, I want to be a pilot. I want to be an F4 pilot. When I was growing up, F4
Oh
that
yeah.
was something.
Yeah.
And then in high school, I started, going to try to get in the, looking at the Air Force Academy and everything. And then I realized I'm not that smart. so, so I said, I'm not going to do that. And so I went, I quit high school in the 11th grade and joined the Army on a
Yeah.
Tuesday, and I was in basic training.
Well,
Um,
it's better than going to the Naval Academy or the Air Force Academy and then finding out you're not so smart. That's what I did.
yeah, I know
So,
you guys' selection process sucks.
yeah.
I'd blame it on them. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then my first, so I was a 11 Delta, 19 Delta Scout reconnaissance specialist, and my first duty assignment out of AIT and everything was with a blues platoon in Fort Riley, 1st and 4th Cav, which is an air platoon. So we had Hueys, and this was 77, and all these CW4s and 3s and 2s, they're all Vietnam guys.
Hmm.
And they would fly those Hueys like an extension of their body.
Oh yeah.
They knew the characteristics of it. They knew what it can do and what it couldn't do. And I loved it. It was
Hmm.
exhilarating, but some people didn't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was fun. I loved it.
Yeah. 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 It's pretty awesome when you can whatever the weapon system is, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
an airplane, helicopter, armored vehicle, tank. It doesn't
Yep.
matter. Whatever it is, whenever somebody can treat it like an extension of their own body, it just takes it to a whole other level.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
And I mean I consider myself pretty proficient in the Hornet, and I was a pretty decent stick. But man, I
Mm-hmm.
flew with some guys that just put me to shame constantly. And there was one. He was my CAG. He was the Air Wing commander of a tactical
Mm-hmm.
support wing, and went out. We were off the coast of California, and we were doing a Red Air event, so we're adversaries. And at the end of it, we had it was him, it was me, and then it was a fleet guy, like just a lieutenant that was kind of augmenting our flight. And we were doing a 1v1v1, so we just take turns just fighting each other. And so CAG fought me, and it just completely embarrassed me, and I was like feeling really down on myself. And then I went and fought this lieutenant and just completely crushed him. And I was like, okay,
That's
not
a
so
good
bad anymore.
feeling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you just some guys are just really naturally gifted at it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
awesome to see.
Well, I talked to you earlier. My wife, for my 50th birthday, got me a fighter pilot experience, which is you go up in a tandem prop, and they let you have some stick
Hmm.
and sticking the rudders, but not not too much throttle and stuff. And you do you go up by Weatherford, you do aerial combat. They film it all, and I'm like, and I've done some crazy things. I flew for 3 years in OH-58 left front seat, so we've done some great high school flight school guys.
Yeah,
18 years old, and they're high school one day, and they're flying helicopters. That's a little risky,
yeah,
but it's some great pilots. And we're doing some maneuvers. I'm like, man, I'm my stomach is topsy turvy.
yeah,
And the guy told me, he says, look outside the airplane.
yeah,
Don't look at the instruments.
yeah,
Look outside the airplane. Concentrate outside the airplane. So I did that. Then he said, well, let's do some loops. Let's pull some G's, and that what do you got to do? You got to bring the blood up from your
yep,
legs up to
yep,
your body, and you got to do all that. And like I said, everybody looks at these pilots. They get out of these, like, the Thunderbird, the Blue Angels, or just flying a normal, a jet for your training. And those guys, they walk out there, happy and everything. I got out of that thing and I was damn exhausted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty funny. When I was a brand new guy in the F-18, we had I won't say his name, but there was an NFL running back that came to get a backseat ride in the Hornet at VFA 106, which is the training squadron for the Hornet, and he was walking around the squadron just strutting, being like, "I'm an NFL running back, like all pro, you can't hurt me," and just cocky. And he got out of the jet after his flight, got down on all fours and kissed the ground. I mean, he was hurting a little bit. So it's pretty humbling.
He was looking for a defensive back to hit him. I need to bring back the normalcy to my life right now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly. I don't know how much physical training or how long it takes for you to be able to withstand prolonged periods, intermittent high G's. I mean, that's just got to be. I don't know how you do it.
Well, I mean, and honestly, it's something that just comes with experience. The first time you do it, you're exhausted, you're wiped out, and it takes a while to recover. But doing it more and more, your body gets used to, learning how to overcome that, and it's not as much a shock to your system anymore. I mean, I think most guys that are fighter pilots, they work out pretty regularly. But ironically, the ones that have what they
even
say,
the Greyhound guys, they work out.
Of course they do. Yeah, they do. But physiologically, it's the you want a higher blood pressure. You want more strength training to work on those core muscles and the leg muscles to keep the blood up, and it's not a lot of endurance. So where you might think like a triathlete would be really good at pulling G's. They're not necessarily the ideal. Now there are a lot of triathletes that do it, but they have the endurance to help overcome some of the fatigue that you develop when you're pulling G's. But what you really want, the ideal body type, is just a squat,
right?
Hunk of muscle, and just not a lot of not very tall, so you don't have a lot for the blood to move,
right?
So physiologically, it's interesting. But I've seen all types. I've seen tall, skinny guys. I've seen short, fat guys. I've seen tall, fat guys, short, skinny guys, it all different types, and you can overcome it, but it just takes practice and training.
I think that's the same, Ranger School or some of these elite units, these big old muscle guys, they have a hard time.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
It's a hard time. So tell us about your book. I'm interested to learn all about it.
Yeah, sorry I wasn't able to get you a copy beforehand, but Unknown Rider is the name of the book, and I will I'll preface it by saying that all my writing in this series is kind of broken up into two parts. There's the military aspect, which I generally lean heavily on the aviation side, just because that's my passion, that's what I understand, and then the other side is espionage. And the reason why is because I don't think a lot of people understand how much espionage is happening on a daily basis. I mean, this book focuses on China as the main threat, and I challenge anybody just to go to New York Times, website and type in Chinese espionage, and you'll be amazed at how many articles there are, whether it be in academia, whether it be in industry, whether it be against our military. They're everywhere, and they're here in the country. So my book starts off with Colt Bancroft. He's a Navy Top Gun fighter pilot flying the F-35C Joint Strike Fighter, which is a 5th generation stealth fighter off a carrier off the coast of California, and he loses control of the jet. And what he comes to find out is that I
think that just happened.
Right. There was an interesting case of that, but
weather.
Yeah. But he comes to, they come to find out that there's this plot by the Chinese to hack into the Joint Strike Fighter, and what they're going to use it for is what he's trying to uncover. Meanwhile, there's an NCIS special agent who is looking for a spy. and their
Hmm.
two paths cross. And that's what the whole genesis of the book is this global conspiracy to figure out what's going on with the Joint Strike Fighter.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, when that incident occurred, I was like, I think what happened, they were testing, you know, unmanned, not somebody in there, but unmanned capabilities of the aircraft,
Yeah,
and something happened, and he
yeah,
had to punch out because that's an all-weather fighter. I've been in commercial
yeah,
airlines that have flown through some crap.
yeah.
You know?
Oh, for sure. And I will. I've also flown with guys who have been struck by lightning,
Yep.
and it's hurt the pilots and the aircraft at times. Um, what I suspect happened, and again, this I have no knowledge whatsoever, but what I
Hmm.
suspect happened was, it was probably struck by lightning. It's an electronic plane. I mean, everything is electronic, whether it be flight
Yep.
controls, all the displays, all his instrumentation. If you lose all your instrumentation and you have no idea what's up or down, and you're in the clouds,
Hmm.
you really don't have any options. And most of the newer fighters, the F-16 has I think it's called ACAS, automatic collision avoidance system, or something like that. But it's basically a
Hmm.
terrain avoidance system that uses GPS to say, hey, if you're at this altitude in this location, you're about ready to hit the terrain, and so the jet will take over. And it's designed so if the pilot blacks out, he won't crash. And
Right.
so my suspicion is that maybe the pilot didn't know where he was, didn't know what up or down was. To save his course of action is to eject, so he did. And now the plane continued flying with this automatic collision avoidance system, preventing it from crashing until eventually it ran out of gas. That's my suspicion. I don't know
It
whether
could
it's
be.
true. Yeah,
I know when I was at Fort Hood in 79 to 83, that we were in an aviation unit, and we had a OH-58 that got in some fog, and because it doesn't have dual capability, it doesn't have the up or down, right? You don't know. You look at your horizon, couldn't tell, and that thing hit the ground at like 135 knots
yeah,
because they didn't know whether they were up or down.
yeah,
I forgot what they
yeah,
call that, like vertigo, I guess, or
yeah.
something.
There's spatial
Some
disorientation.
spatial disorientation.
Yep,
Exactly, exactly,
yep,
exactly. So,
yep,
so you got your first one coming out,
yeah.
and then you got another one coming out in February,
In
and
February.
it's a second one of the series. Do you have to read one for 2 to 3, or you can read independently?
No, each story is an independent story. Now, obviously, I try to write so that you'll pick up things in book two. If you'd read book one, you'll pick little Easter eggs up and go, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe smaller
Mm-hmm.
characters that were in book one become more prominent characters in book two, even more so in book three. So no, but you can read each one individually. Obviously, I'm going to recommend that everyone read the Unknown Rider first, and then follow the
Mm-hmm.
progression. And um, my titles of my books follow a certain progression as well. Each one means something in terms of air intercept. So unknown rider means that there is um, a radar hit return that is following a known flight path of a friendly aircraft, but maybe they don't know if it's friendly, and so you'll hear on the radio. Sometimes you'll hear unknown rider at position whatever.
Right.
State your intentions, contact us on this frequency, whatever. So that's book one. Book two is called Outlaw. Outlaw means they know the point of origin. They
Mm-hmm.
know where it took off from, but they don't know whether it's friendly or hostile. The third book is Bogey Spades. That means that they're not squawking a friendly code. So IFF, identify friend or foe,
Mm-hmm.
is our transponder, and they're not squawking a friendly code. So they may not be hostile, but they're definitely not friendly. And then the
Right.
last book in the series is going to be called Declared Hostile, and that's like the final progression. So it follows a progression, and it follows it for a reason. And if you read the whole series, it'll make sense.
Yeah, I kind of have started the book one, the team, individuals, uh, then become the team at the end of the book as through the book, and then I carry them through the second, and then carry the third. I introduce a new character in the second one, and the third, she has a more prominent role in the books, because I'm probably series of 3 or 4, or
Yeah,
whatever.
or
Um,
20.
yeah, shoot, I'll be 100 by then. So yeah, you never know. Let's put blank pages out. It'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, there you go.
But no, so what do you do when you don't when you're not writing? I mean, how do you find your? I know you got some kids and everything going to school.
Yeah.
So that's hard. So what do you do for like inspiration or just kind of decompress a little bit? You have a stressful job.
That's an excellent question. I mean, right now most of my time is consumed by either flying for the airline, writing, or doing kids activities. But aside from that, I try to get out and go for a run every day if I can. Like you said, in the summertime in Texas, it might be hot, a little too hot to do that. And for somebody that was from, I was raised in Seattle, so the Texas heat for me is a little bit of a shock to my system. I don't have the blood type for it necessarily, so running outside is probably not the right idea for me in the summertime. But now that it's getting a little bit cooler, I try to get outside. If nothing else, just go for a walk. But that's pretty much my life right now, and I'm hoping I can, start to slow down just a little bit. Once I get these books out and just kind of, enjoy it. I mean, the things I really enjoy doing. I love camping. I love hiking. I love, being out in nature and just away from people and chaos.
In general, they're terrible. People are terrible.
Yeah.
So, what events do you have planned around your launch, and where can people meet you? Where can they get your book? General information.
Yeah. My book's available anywhere books are sold. So, Amazon is probably where most people are buying their books these days, whether it be on Audible or Kindle or even just ordering a paperback or hardback. I know it's carried in other places as well. You can go to the Seven River website. I think it's called sevenriverbooks.com. And they have an updated list of where you can buy the books. As far as meeting me, I don't have any in-person events scheduled right now, other than I have one up in the Philadelphia area. A company asked me to come out and speak to its employees and do a little event there. So I'm looking forward to doing that. In the future, I would like to schedule more. Unfortunately, with my book release being around Thanksgiving, it's going to be awfully hard. A lot of bookstores and places don't do in-store events around the holidays. So I might have more around my second book. We'll see, but obviously my website, jackstewartbooks.com, will be a good place. I'll list all that stuff. You can sign up for my newsletter.
It's a great website, by the way, folks.
Thank you.
That is a very, very cool website.
And if I can say one thing about the website, if you do buy my book, and it is heavily technical, but I try to write it in a way that the layperson can understand. But sometimes I fall short. Sometimes, the military likes to use a lot of jargon and acronyms and things like that. So I do have a glossary on my website that I intend to keep revising with each book that comes out in the Battleborn series, so that if there's a term you don't understand, you can go to my website and you can search that term and give you a definition. And if the term's not there, there's a little link there that you can drop a note in and say, hey, what does this mean? And I can reply to it and add it to the glossary.
Excellent. I can say that. So Capel Library has a book thing they're doing in November.
Oh, okay.
So I think you can still sign up for that. I'll send you a link.
Yeah, absolutely. I know my publisher, and if you could send me the link, that'd be great, because my publisher has been reaching out to libraries and bookstores and stuff like that.
And then Allen Library here in town, they'll have people come in periodically and speak in the auditorium. I did that. In May, and I'll send you the contact information for Tom too. Reach out to them, and they'll schedule it out in advance. But it's pretty cool. They got a beautiful auditorium.
Yeah, well, I'd love to do that. Any opportunity I can to speak to people, I really love.
And I'm actually thinking about doing a North Texas area Red River book event there in the Allen Convention Center. I'm starting to noodle that, because I see these all over the place. I'm like, Dallas doesn't have anything, or I'm like, that's just ridiculous. So I'm kind of noodling that and see what kind of reception I would get. Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Now, who knows? Between all the other stuff that I'm doing, I can, put that somewhere.
Yeah.
So where Twitter can people? I know we reached out on Twitter. That's
Yeah.
how we came about. So where can everybody get you on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all these other things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm most active, I'd say, on Instagram, Jack Stewart Books, and Twitter or X or whatever it's being called now is Jack Stewart Books. So just no S, too many characters. Those are the places I'm probably most active. You can reach out to me there. I am on Facebook, same. I am on TikTok. I don't do a whole lot on that, but yeah, if you go to my website, it has links to all those.
Excellent. Well, Jack, it's been a pleasure. I want to say thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for yours.
I love interviewing military, GIs, Navy sailors, Marines, Coast Guard. I don't care. Right.
Yeah.
I'm an equal opportunity military representative.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because they're a lot of experience, and I think they put a lot of things in books that may be different from that. Even if they don't write military thriller or whatever, just life experiences. But I like interviewing everybody. And the reason I started this podcast is because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so, better yet, why don't you speak to people that know what they're doing and get some advice off them, or at least be able to share that advice. So that's why I created this Author Ecke. And Ecke, for folks that don't know, is corner in German. Yeah. So this is Author Corner. But it's trying to find unique names this day is probably as hard as finding a meteorite to name after yourself.
Yes.
So it is tough, and folks do that. But it's great. No, I appreciate it, and we look forward, getting your books, and we're definitely have to get together and grab a brew or something.
Absolutely.
Bring some books with us just in case somebody wants one.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Sounds perfect.
When I fly, I normally give one to the crew.
Do you? That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I put the flight number, in my seat.
Yeah.
So so that way they hate it. Bring it back to me.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a fantastic idea, but unfortunately, I fly too many flights. I can't do that.
Oh, you wouldn't have enough.
Yeah.
Give them a link. Just give them a link. Have a card with your barcode. So here you go.
Yeah, I do have that. I do carry those cards around, and I try not to sell my books too much. But if anybody's interested,
hey, you know what?
Give it to them.
This is entrepreneurship. You gotta,
it is.
Get out there and get the gusto. Well, Jack, it was a pleasure meeting you, and stay safe flying. And folks, go out, check his website out, reach out to him. What I found out is the author community helping one another is amazing. There is no competition whatsoever. There's enough readers in the world that we can all, make out okay.
Yeah, so, absolutely. It's been a great community to be a part of.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. So go check out he's got a new book coming out. I'll put the podcast out right around when it ships. And then you got another one in February. So go out, get his books, go to his website, reach out to him on Twitter. But again, thank you very much for taking the time today. Yeah,
thanks for having me on. Good chat.
Anytime. Aim high. Go Army.
Beat Army.